What happens when you give lightsabers to some HEMA people to fight with? What do we learn about lightsaber combat? And let's see if the Damien Saber lightsabers actually stand up to HEMA fighting use. Hi folks, Matt Easton here, Schola Gladiatoria. So this is a little bit off the beaten track for this channel, because this isn't historical swordsmanship. Or is it? Well, it actually kind of is. Bear with me here. So I was approached by Damien Saber, and we're going to be looking at a review of these, and these have actually been put through their tests, so a bit of a spoiler alert there. But I've filmed this review in various parts because I wanted to get the chance to actually use these in a HEMA class. So that's what you're going to see in this video. And the basic question here is, how good are these Damien Saber lightsabers? They are the only ones that I've ever had or owned or reviewed. And can they stand up to actual HEMA sparring? So let's have a look at them. So these were sent to me by Damien Saber. I've actually got two different models here. One is a basic kind of recommended combat model, because yes, indeed, you can fight with lightsabers. There are competitions, there are tournaments, there's everything now. So this is a sort of basic competition one, and this is a special character one, shall we say. So this is a more expensive version here. We'll look at both of these hilts up close in a minute. Now, first of all, I should say that there are lots of different functions on these, and I can change the colour. There we go, let's put it up, there we go. There we go, I'll become Luke in Return of the Jedi now. So there are all sorts of different function settings, and it all operates from one button. So it's quite an ingenious system. You can hear that there's a speaker built in, and you've got different reacts, so it's got motion sensors in it as well. And one of the things that you find with these is the different makes of these. There's quite a variety out there, and I am not familiar with any of the others apart from Damien Saber. So these are the first ones I've ever actually owned. I have actually played with lightsabers in the past that belong to friends of mine, people like Alex Pocklington, Drakinifil, who you might know. Now, what I should therefore say is I am not the best person in the world to be reviewing lightsabers, because I haven't tried many other different models and makes. I have only mastered, shall we say, about half of the functions on this. These are incredibly complicated, well, not complicated to use, but complicated in terms of complex, that's the best of the word. They're complex units with a lot of different functions. So you can change the colour of the blade, you can change the sounds they make, you can put them into a stable, glowing sound, or you can make them unstable, you can turn the volume up and down. Loads of different things, and it's all controlled by pushing these buttons a certain number of times or for a certain amount of time. But these Damien Saber ones, to me, seem really well made. Now, obviously, I'm going to stick a link down below to Damien Saber, and I know they do a whole bunch of different styles. So obviously, I've just got two here. And I have to say, they each have pluses and minuses. So funnily enough, although this is recommended as a fighting one, because the lightsaber is this particular one is quite a smooth ergonomic shape. But I have noticed from a weapon user's point of view, one of the things I like is something to stop my hand accidentally going up on the blade. And in my opinion, this particular design is a little bit too smooth and featureless. Now, when you look at things like, you know, Luke or Vader's lightsabers from the Star Wars trilogy, you will notice they have lots of sort of boxes and knobs and pointy bits in them, in a place where you really wouldn't want them on an actual ergonomic weapon handle. So if I grab something, here we go, let's grab a sword here, they are designed to be gripped and to be comfortable in certain ways. And honestly, lightsabers, a lot of them from the movies, were not designed ergonomically, they were designed to look cool, and only the grips were thought of after. Now, I will say that this version here, although it's more complex in terms of the hilt, because it's got more features on it, it actually is, for me, safer in terms of not accidentally gripping the blade. Because you've got all of these positive feedback areas here, you know when you're getting close to the blade. And for me, the problem with the completely kind of smoother, more featureless type is you can accidentally slide up and find yourself gripping the blade, which obviously doesn't matter because these are just toys ultimately. But from a simulation point of view, even from a movie making point of view, it's kind of stupid if your character or you are gripping the lightsaber blade, because you shouldn't be doing that. So I actually prefer this handle, despite the fact it's got more protrusions on it. This is actually a very nice ergonomic handle. Still looks super, super cool, like something straight out of the movies, but is actually better to use. And I would say it's slightly longer than the other one. So for the way that I like to grip a longsword, for example, or a katana, I like to have my hands actually quite spread apart for extra leverage. Now, before we go into actually testing these out, so I have used these with my kids, and with my wife, Lucy, and with a couple of other friends. We have done some very light sparring with these. But so far, I don't really know how tough these are. I don't know how much they're going to hurt, what protective gear we have to wear. But in addition, I don't know how durable they are, how well will they stand up to be used. So the second part of this video is you're actually going to see us using these at my smaller HEMA club, not the main one in London, but the smaller one in Surrey. If you ever want to come and train with us, we normally train with swords, like with steel swords, and we're in Woking every Friday from 8 p.m. So you're very welcome to come and train with us, and sometimes we do fun things like playing with these lightsabers. This is the first time we've ever done this, but maybe they'll be popular. So my concerns in terms of durability are, I have noticed on these there are a few things that will come unscrewed because you need to be able to get different things in or out of them or adjust things. So sometimes there are elements of things attached to the hilt which might possibly come undone. Well, let's see if that happens. But my main concern is the junction between the blade, which is some type of high impact plastic, and you'll see it is flexible. It doesn't have distal taper. It's the same thickness all along, but you can see it's a fairly tough plastic. But I have no idea how well this is going to hold up. Now, how are we going to use these? Well, we're going to use them competitively in sparring. Okay, we're not going to do choreography. We're just going to fence with them. And we're not going to hit as hard as we possibly can do, because I think that would probably destroy them quite quickly. But my concern is that the blade only goes into the hilt to about 2 inches depth. Okay, so what's that, about 5 centimeters? And then it's held in, I don't know if you'll be able to see, let's have a look here. It is held in there with a little Allen key. Nut, I guess it's called. So you can undo that and you can take the blade out. So if you're doing like cosplay or, you know, Halloween dress up, whatever, and you just want to have a lightsaber handle, you can just have that lightsaber handle attached to your belt or whatever. But then you can put the blade in, you do that with the Allen key, you do that up. And I have to say, they seem pretty sturdy. I can certainly swoosh the thing really, really hard, and it seems to be okay. The question is, what will happen when we hit these against each other hard and when we hit each other's bodies, gloves, fencing masks with these? I don't know yet, so we're going to see. But obviously this part of the video I had to film before I did that, just in case we have a breakage. Anyway, let's see how they do with a little bit of free sparring at my fencing club. Hi folks, so here I am at my fencing club. This is the Woking club on Friday nights from 8 p.m. If you're in the area, if you're in Surrey or ever visiting and you want to pay us a visit, then you're welcome to. So I have never used these actually to hit people with. I've played around with them and bashed them against each other, but I've not actually properly put these through their paces. So I don't really know how hard to hit with these. I don't know how hard these can take. I don't know what it will be like for my training partner, so it's a bit of an experimentation, but I shall report back when I find out more data. So let's have a little go with these Damien sabers. What? If you it's interesting you good job. Start to wrap up. It's alright, you can do a couple more hits if you want. No? So you may have recognised Drakinafil here, Alex, so they stood up pretty well, didn't they?
Yeah, a lot better than I thought they were going to.
There's some scuffs and marks on the blades,
yes.
But to be honest, most of that's probably from hitting masks and bits of our equipment. If they hit you, so I'm just wearing plain leather gloves. You've got padded, you've got like lacrosse gloves. Those I imagine protect you pretty well. These actually quite hurt if you get hit in the fingers. And I tell you, having no cross guard or any other type of guard, I'm not used to at all. I'm used to obviously having a cross guard or a rapier hilt or a saber hilt. So I took quite a lot of little hits on my fingers when even if I'd land a good hit on Alex, I'd still get hit in the thumb or the index finger at the same time. So you have to modify your technique. And funny enough, that's why I switched from a two-handed grip to a one-handed grip, because I'm able to use my reach and my distance with a one-handed grip better than I am with a two-handed grip. But they stood up pretty well, didn't they?
Yeah, as I say, for the lightweight that they are, I seriously thought we were going to be breaking one at some point.
Yeah. And we were hitting relatively, obviously we weren't hitting as hard as we could, but we were trying to hit without getting hit. And to be completely honest, in fencing, you very rarely hit as hard as you physically can, because that usually is slow and predictable and everything else. So actually, I'm really impressed with how well he stood up. I think we should let some other people have a go with them, don't you?
Yeah.
But anyway, I hope that was fun to watch. It was fun to do, and I want to fight some more people with them now. So as you saw, these actually stood up really, really quite well. In fact, I've got to be honest, I expected we were going to break them, but we didn't. We used them, they worked great, they were a lot of fun. A few things that we came away from the experience with. First of all, you need decent protection, because if you really whack someone hard with one of these, it'll hurt. Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing is, the blades do pick up damage when using said protective gear. Obviously, if you're hitting fencing masks and hard plastic, maybe hand guards, arm guards, shoulders, whatever, they are going to pick up scuffs and stuff. Now, this can be cleaned off, polished off. I haven't done it yet, but they did stand up pretty well. They did get a tiny bit loose in the junction between the blade and the hilt. I personally would mount them deeper into the hilt to make them even stronger. But that said, none of them came out, none of them broke. They stood up way better than we expected. They're also pretty well suited to hitting people with, because they've got a slightly flexible blade, so it actually takes most of the force out of the blow, even though it did still quite hurt. And you've got to be slightly wary of thrusts. I have to say, in our full HEMA gear, we didn't have to worry too much about thrusts. It's no different to really maybe a rattan stick in terms of the thrust, but I think if you weren't wearing full HEMA gear, then the thrusts could be quite dangerous, obviously to faces, but we're wearing fencing masks. So thrusts and cuts all worked. Now, the two main things that we came away from the experience with in terms of our insights into lightsaber combat, or at least using these lightsabers for lightsaber combat, first of all, the lack of hand protection. We really felt it. We got so many incidental hits on the hands where basically you'd parry, for example, and the blade would slide down. There's nothing to stop it, and it would clip you on the end of the thumb or the finger. So many times, and you actually changed your technique as a result. So I, for example, when I was fencing, started off using sort of something like longsword kendo technique, and then I moved through to saber technique, and then I ended up using basically epee technique, or perhaps rapier technique. Essentially because I was finding that parries were too slippery and slidey on these blades, and having no hand protection meant that the blade, if you made any, well, a lot of, not all, but certain types of parries, it would always slide down and it would catch you on the finger regardless. You could make very perpendicular parries, and that would prevent that to some extent, but nevertheless the hands are super vulnerable. And also, of course, thrusting. So when we look at Star Wars movies, these are predominantly used as cutting objects, but actually it makes perfect sense to use these as thrusting objects as well. And in fact, famously, of course, lots of people in the Star Wars movies are killed by thrusts, Qui-Gon Jinn, for example, and some people survive thrusts, Sabine, no spoilers. But anyway, thrusts with lightsabers are done, but they should probably be done more in realistic lightsaber combat. But here's my advice to all lightsaber simulator manufacturers, and that is your blades are too slippery. Okay, they are too slippery compared to actual steel sword blades, but they're also too slippery compared to Star Wars canon. So if we look at actual steel blades, when they contact with each other, they have a degree of friction to them that prevents them from sliding up and down quite as easily as these plastic blades do. So they don't react against each other and also they bounce off each other as well, which steel blades tend not to do very much. So not only do they bounce off each other, but they're also very slippery and slidey, and they skip off each other. We have this problem with nylon sparring weapons, and it's a common criticism of nylon sparring weapons, which is why some people have tried to make textured nylon sparring weapons so that they bind a bit more like steel blades. That's the first thing. The second thing is, as I mentioned, Star Wars canon. If we look at Star Wars canon, actually when lightsabers bind against each other, they do seem to stick against each other. So, here's my hypothetical advice to lightsaber manufacturers, and I'd be certainly willing to test out this theory. The blades should be rubberized somehow, because then they would stick and bind against each other more like a real sword blade, and more like how we see lightsabers reacting in the movies and animated shows and everything else. And I also think it would help protect the blade somewhat. Now this, you could have a rubberized sleeve, kind of like a condom that goes on, or it could be just a rubberized textured surface. I don't know, you guys can work that out. But my gift to the lightsaber fighting community is that if you want your fighting, first of all, and this would also protect your hands better because the blades wouldn't slide down and hit you in the hands quite so easily. So if you want your lightsaber fighting to, I would say, be better, if you want it to look more like lightsaber combat in the movies, and if you want it to be more like actual fencing, you need to increase the friction of these blades so they bind against each other a little bit better. And I think rubberizing them is the right way to go, and that could be transparent, but still have the colour showing through. You could possibly even colorize the sleeve that goes on, and so you just have one color beam underneath, and then you change the sleeve to different colors. That's just an idea. There we go. Don't worry about copyright. You can go and make that, and send me one. If you do it, send me one and I'll review it in the future. Anyway, thanks again to Damien Saber for sending me these. They've been an awful lot of fun to play with and fight with, and we're probably going to be doing it again actually. As it happens, I have a bunch of Star Wars fans in my various fencing clubs, and some of them really enjoyed having a play with these lightsabers, and the noise that they make is a lot of fun as well. Anyway, thanks for watching. Give us a thumbs up if you liked this video, subscribe if you haven't done already, and I hope I'll see you back on the channel really soon. Cheers folks! Thanks for watching. We've got extra videos on Patreon. Please give our Facebook a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Cheers folks!